Hey guys, welcome to something a bit different today. We're at Cranage Hall in Cheshire for a little bit of vintage at the Singer Nationals. So let's go and have a look at these cars. So this is the Singer 9 Sports and Le Mans 4-seaters, and our car's actually in this class. 7 cars here this year, and some quite different ones. So this is Dylan, which is a 1934 9 Sports, restored by my dad with a little bit of help from myself over the last 7 years. 972cc car. And almost there, we've had it out on the road a little bit, still a few little bits to tweak moving forwards. People know these as a Le Mans, but Le Mans technically were the 2-seaters, although Singer did actually run one of these cars at Le Mans as a 4-seater because the ability to get a bigger fuel tank in it and obviously last longer without stopping during the race. So we said there's a few different cars in the class. Ours is a standard rear on the car, but we've got a number of, in fact, 4 in the class with a boat tail on it, which is the much more sweeping rear of it, and an enclosed spare wheel, whereas ours is the exposed spare wheel. So here we've even got a Singer tractor at the event. These are the pre-1932 cars, including the Singer Junior, which really was a competitor to the Austin 7. Very, very old cars and quite simple in terms of their engines, and we're going to have a look at one of those in a second. So as you can see in this one, the engine quite different to what we'd see in a modern engine. You can actually see it broken down into 2 banks in there, and a Zenith carburettor on the side of it. Very, very simple and crude engines, but actually run really, really well. So I think what's interesting at these events, we get some really different cars. This one quite ratty with its original panels, a lot of the rust showing on the car, but actually mechanically brilliant and running really, really well. So the owner brings this, drives this out on the road and comes to the shows regularly in it. So this is the former club secretary's car, actually very similar to our 9 Sports. It's actually the saloon version of it, and you can actually see the shape of the rear quarters very similar to our car. This is an absolutely beautiful car done to absolute perfection. And as you can see, shares a lot with the Sports. The dashboard very, very similar, as is all the gear change. This car actually has a special gearbox in it which allows for a clutchless gear change. So at the back of our cars we've got the Le Mans 2-seaters, obviously a 2-seater because they had the petrol tank to the rear of the car, which actually took up the space of the rear seats effectively. So these were an interesting choice for Le Mans at the time, only a 972cc engine, so actually for endurance they didn't need to fuel as often as other cars, but there were some significant failures, particularly with the steering on the front of these cars, with components actually breaking, and some quite serious accidents at the time. So it's quite interesting in these cars. Some are absolutely mechanically perfect, others a bit more cosmetically beautiful, but this is probably one of the most sorted cars here today in terms of its mechanics on the car. Beautiful running car, runs very smooth and quiet when it's ticking over. So obviously Singer Owners Club, a lot more modern Singers as well, sort of around the sort of 50s, 60s mark. Not really my thing, but certainly the owners really cherish and care for these cars, some beautifully finished cars, really showing off them in the sunlight today. What do you think, B?
I'm a fan of 50s and 60s cars. Again, not my personal thing. I would go for the more mainstream brands, maybe like Minis, Triumphs, but I still appreciate them.
Although, what's behind us, I think you will appreciate a bit more. Talking about behind us, we've got the Singer Chamois, or what people would probably more commonly known as a Hillman Imp, all part of the Roots group, but this was the Singer version.
These are a bit more posh, weren't they?
They're a bit more upmarket for the more connoisseur of a small car.
Still would be good with a higher booster in the back.
Still would be good with a booster in the back. But yeah, rear engined. In fact, we can go around and have a look at this one as it's bonnet stroke boot is up. So there you go, as we say, people are really caring for these cars. What a lovely engine bay. Engine rotated slightly to keep the centre of gravity down. This one with oil coolers and some very nice subtle modifications to it. But in the day, these were one of the really sporty, racy cars out there. So what we're saying, B, the Mini Cooper S, Focus ST of the day, with its mini light wheels on it, sporty engine.
I don't know about that, but either way, I would still have one. I think they're really cool.
They are cool.
And you can stance them, so that's me sorted, isn't it?
Good looking car, that.
I mean, we'd offend the purists, I'm sorry.
We probably would. Yeah. On air?
I'd love it on air,
yeah. Nice. B at the show, bit of you?
Yeah,
Volvo.
Me, I love a Volvo, I do.
Can't be a good
You don't
Volvo.
see this, Mark, very much.
You don't?
But still equally cool, or as always.
Very. And just look how lovely they sit. So here we've got the Singer Roasters, things like the 4AD. These are really the crossover between the older vintage cars that we've looked at today and the more modern cars. You can see the influences of starting to round it off, smooth things a little bit and close things a bit more, but still has that vintage feel to it. Most of them on steel wheels as well, rather than the wire wheels on the vintage cars. So here we've got the 1.5 litre Sports and Le Mans. Effectively, these are the big brother of our car. 6-cylinder engine rather than the 4-cylinder engine in ours, and they're just that little bit scaled up, about 20% bigger in size than ours. You can actually probably sit in these and fit in them, which ours is a little bit of a struggle to get into, but a little bit more practical. Can run at higher speeds. These will happily sit at sort of 65, 70 on the motorway, whereas pushing it with our car to get to that level. So one of the things you see in the Le Mans cars compared to the 4-seaters is they actually have this bulge here in the bulkhead, and actually a number of them will run aero screens as well as the main screen, so fold down with a couple of aero screens behind them. So at this end of the show we've got the Singer Vogues, and two very different eras of car. You can see moving towards the more modern here in the Gold car, which has got the square ends on it, and the slightly older car with the chrome and the rounded headlights on the front of it. Here we've got the Singer Vogue, built between 1966 and 1970, a 1725cc saloon, obviously built in Coventry. So here we've got the Singer Gazelles, 1960s car, similar era to the Mini coming out. You can see some of the things creeping in from the styling cues of the Mini with the wraparound chrome bumpers, some of the grills on the front of it, but becoming a little bit more modern as a car. So we talked about the Singer Chamois. Well, this is the Hillman Imp, which was its competitor, built by a sister company at the time. Visually very, very similar to the car, but a little bit lower in spec. So one of the things that Singer always do is they allow visiting clubs to come along. So today we've got the Women's Drivers Club. We've also got the Young Morris Minor Owners Club and a few other slightly different cars here. MG, TR at the far end of the line. We've got a VW Beetle, a number of Morris Minors, just adding to a bit of the variety at the show. So this is a Wolsey, a little bit like the Princess back in the day. The move to making cars much more web-like, but a transverse 6-cylinder engine in there with twin SUs. So, B at the show, bit of you?
Yeah,
Volvo.
bit of me, I love a Volvo, I do.
Can't be a good
You don't
Volvo.
see this, Mark, very much.
You don't?
But still equally cool, or as always.
Very. There we go, off on their travels back to the Netherlands.